Meet Keith, loving dad, board game champ, bus driving pro.
I drive 65,000 miles in my bus each year. If people knew what I know, lives could be saved. Like how there are some things I simply can't see. On my route the other day, a car tried to sneak past me and ends up right in my blind spot. I turned slowly, so accident avoided. But no car should be in the blind spot for a 40,000-pound bus. It's our roads. It's our safety.
Visit www.sharetheroadsafely.gov.
Every team, every topic, everywhere. This is Believe.
Welcome in, everyone, to another edition of the Royals Rundown podcast presented by Royals Review. I am Jacob Milham, joined on the other side of the screen by the illustrious Jeremy Greco. Jeremy, it is a happy Friday here out here in Virginia. I will say it is also a happy Friday, I will admit, because the Royals got a series victory despite last night's effort, to say the least.
What would you do if your online store converted 36% more shoppers? You could take 36% more vacation.
Another pina colada? Yes, please.
Open a new retail location with 36% more square feet.
Fantastic.
Hire 36% more help.
You're hired and you're hired.
Shopify has the world's best converting checkout, up to 36% better than other e-commerce platforms. What you do with those extra sales is up to you. Switch to Shopify today at shopify.com/listen and get a $1 trial. Shopify.com/listen.
The bummer last night?
Yeah, the real bummer, you know?
People are going nuts about why is Aaron Bummer pitching in a close game? Q doesn't know what he's doing. Why isn't Daniel Lynch pitching? Because Daniel Lynch is starting tonight, which we found out after the game. This is a thing that I feel like people, and I know I've said this before, and I'll say it a million times, and people still won't hear it. And maybe it's people not listening to the podcast. Maybe everyone who listens to the podcast already gets this, and I'm preaching to the choir. But it's fine to criticize a manager's bullpen usage, but you have to add the caveat that you don't know what he knows about who's available. So if you're going to sit there and scream, why isn't Daniel Lynch pitching? Q's an idiot. You have to go, okay, Q knew something, in this case, that Daniel Lynch is starting tomorrow night, that I didn't know. And so maybe the bullpen usage makes more sense than it seems like it does.
Yeah, absolutely. Now it does.
There you go.
I will say that. There we go. Hey, look at that.
You sound so much better.
Thank you, Jeremy. I appreciate that. I'm not eating my microphone anymore. I apologize, everyone out there, for that. We will talk a little bit about Daniel Lynch starting tonight against the Chicago Cubs. This podcast episode will come out before the game, so if you tune in before the game, hey, kudos to you. Appreciate your support. Or if you want to keep tabs on what's going on with Lynch, with the rest of the Royals crew, make sure you go check out RoyalsReview.com. Stay up to date on all things Kansas City Royals and Feed the Feed. We will actually talk about a topic over there that we've touched on briefly in the podcast, but I will say is gaining a little bit more attention from folks, and there's a good discussion about it in the feed, so I want to bring it back to the podcast. But before we get onto that, let's go ahead and look back on this Minnesota Twins series. Royals didn't get the sweep, unfortunately, but they went into Thursday evening's primetime action with the series victory already in hand. That was, it's one of those moral victory things. The Twins are the team who's in the playoff hunt, and it is it's nice that the Royals were able to get that series victory over them and kind of hamper their playoff hopes. What do you think, Jeremy?
Yeah, I mean, it's always nice to win, right? It's always more fun to win. It's a bummer that they didn't get the sweep. No pun intended. Maybe a little intended. But winning's fun. It's also worth, it's kind of funny. I feel like the Twins are a little bit in the situation the Royals were in last year, where, yeah, you're in the playoff hunt, but everyone looks at you, if they look at like, oh, your run differential and all this stuff, they're like, I don't know if you're actually in the playoff hunt, but the Twins decided to go for it anyway, which reminds me of an article that Ken Rosenthal put out. I think it was yesterday. I also can't swear it was Rosenthal. I know it was on The Athletic. I could promise you it was on The Athletic. I think it was Ken Rosenthal, and I think it was yesterday, talking about how teams act like their windows are so big, and we don't got to win the World Series this year. We can win it next year. And he highlighted the Baltimore Orioles, who made that crazy Adley Rutschman trade, which is one of those trades I hate for both sides. Because, like, yeah, the Orioles got a ton of great prospects back, but also you gave up the face of your franchise.
Yeah.
And that sucks. And the Red Sox gave up way too much for Adley Rutschman. Some people were saying I would do that deal for Bobby Witt Jr., and I wouldn't do that deal for Bobby Witt Jr., but maybe if it was 2 years left of Bobby Witt Jr., which I guess there's 2 years left of Rutschman, you'd do that. Maybe. But Rutschman is not Bobby Witt Jr. Anyway, I'm getting off topic. The point is, why you let me do this, Jacob?
I just let you steer your own ship, man. Sometimes it's the Odyssey over here.
I do love, it's one of my favorites. I need to see the movie still. But the point is that the Orioles, when Rutschman and Henderson and everyone was coming up in 22 and 23, they thought they had this huge window. And the Orioles haven't won a playoff game. They got swept out by the Royals. I think they got swept out by another team in the ALDS a different year. I don't follow the Orioles as closely as I could. The point is they thought they had this huge window. They didn't ever go all in on it, and it cost them. Yep. And everyone goes, oh, well, the Dodgers take Scooble money. Anybody could have beat that deal. The Brewers could have blown that deal out of the water if they'd said, here's Jesus Mate. Here's one of the guys we got back for Freddie Peralta. And just him. Just Mate for Scooble straight up is an overpay by the Brewers, but it blows the Dodgers offer out of the water.
It does.
And they could have done that. They chose not to. They don't want to go all in because it's more important to them to have cost-controlled labor, because they want to guarantee future profits more than they want to win. So I want to also take this moment to go back and give some props to a couple of guys I have nonstop criticized pretty much outside of the 14-15 window, which are Dayton Moore and David Glass. Because Dayton Moore and David Glass, they went for it in 2015. And we thought, they've got a couple more years with this core. It's going to be a good team. They don't have to go for it, but I'm glad they're going for it. And they went for it in 15. They got the best pitcher on the market. They got the best position player on the market. And they won the World Series that year. Why are the Royals the only small market team to win the World Series? Because one year they freaking went for it. And of all the amazing pitching prospects they traded that year, only one of them turned into anything, Sean Manaea.
Yeah,
and you could go back to the Wade Davis trade and say that was part of going for it also, which it was, even though, James Shields was the highlight of that trade and he wasn't still with the team in 2015. But Wade Davis was still there. And you could say, oh, they gave up a bunch of really good prospects there. And some of them turned into fine major leaguers. None of them turned into stars. And that was the fear. And that's always the fear when you trade a Jesus Mate or a Zaire Hope, is that they're going to turn into a star while you get a guy as a rental. But they usually don't. And going for it matters. And I lost where we even started me going on this rabbit trail. It's just something I really wanted to talk about.
Yeah, I understand. And just for everyone's reference, I remember that James Shields trade. Hey, the headline prospect going back, Will Myers. I thought he was going to be the next big thing. A lot of folks did. I was not alone in that. Will Myers.
He won the Rookie of the Year, and it was kind of scary.
Yep, it definitely was scary. Across his 11-year MLB career, which he last played in the majors in 2023, he accrued 13.2 WAR in that span. So
that's respectable. That's a respectable big league career. That is. Hey, you had a big league career. You were a positive contributor. You're suffering a dog attack.
Yeah, it was. Hold on, a little behind the scenes. So my brother walked out of their room with a hat on.
Oh no, not a hat.
Yes, and the corgi. They do. Yeah. And so I kid you not, the corgi puppy launched underneath my desk and was just howling and screeching at them simply because they had a hat on. And they're the puppy's still a little worried about what's going on. So sorry about that, y'all. But okay, let's get back to the Twins real quick, because the Twins did
back on the road. We've derailed the bus enough.
Yes, let's steer it back. The Twins, they did a, hey, we're kind of going for it right now. And this is, this team did not come in with high expectations into the season. A lot of dysfunction but like here's the thing. We knew what they were doing last year. Like, they were clear sellers. They said, we are sellers through and through, and we had a fire sale. That's why we didn't expect a whole lot from them. They've kind of righted the ship a little bit, but again, are they a playoff team? I don't think so. I think they're just a playoff team in a bad AL field. The Royals, for all the positives of them winning 2 out of 3, the Twins look like the more complete team for most time, but the Royals got some very, very good performances. I want to highlight Noah Cameron in particular, Jeremy, because this guy has been it's been a roller coaster for him in 2026.
Yeah.
This is I think that's a very kind way to put it. Like, the peaks have been very, very high,
Yeah.
but the valleys have been very, very low. But meanwhile, this guy, he just had his scoreless streak end. But over his past 3 starts, which we'll talk about what the common denominator is between those 3 starts, 23 innings pitched, 78 batters faced, only 6 hits allowed, with 6 walks and 24 strikeouts in that span. That is good. With the 1 run in that span too, that is good for a .39 ERA and a sub-2 FIP. Noah Cameron is looking like the guy that we hoped he would be, the guy that he had shown at points earlier on this year. But Jeremy, it's hard to deny that common denominator, man.
Yeah, he's been calling his own pitches. That you could actually also, I think, point out that he's been throwing to Salvador Perez.
That too, yeah.
And I don't believe in catcher ERA, so I'm pretty sure it's the calling his own pitches thing. I'm not sure what Sal would be doing differently from Carter with the pitcher calling his own pitches. So the question, I guess, becomes, why is calling his own pitches working so well? And the argument I've seen is that he has more confidence in his pitches because he's picking them. But I almost wonder if he feels like he's better able to tell which of his pitches are working than the catchers. And because there was a seemingly a common denominator after the first 2 of those appearances where he was throwing his cutter more than any of his other pitches, which he'd never done before. But in the 3rd start, he threw his changeup the most. His cutter actually came in 4th most used. It was changeup, slider, curveball, 4-seam cutter, or changeup, slider, 4-seam cutter, curveball. And his curveball is usually considered his best pitch. But he also, all 5 of those were within, a handful of pitches of usage from each other. So he was using them all pretty evenly in reality. But it just seems like maybe he can tell better, or at least he thinks he can tell better, which of his pitches are working as far as his mechanics and as far as what the hitters are able to see with them. And he's able to have success that way.
Yeah.
Someone asked me on social media, I'm sorry, I've forgotten your username, and maybe I can go look it up here. But someone asked me, is this the new market inefficiency, having pitchers call their own pitches? They've tried going the other direction where the dugout's calling the pitches, and I think you and I both hate that. But now, obviously, Seth Lugo has been calling his own pitches for a while, and all of the Royals pitchers will sometimes call their own pitches. But this does seem to be excuse me, does seem to be a thing where calling his own pitches is really working for Noah Cameron. And sorry, I lost my train of thought because I was trying to find this. It was Brian Peterson on Blue Sky who asked me, is this the new thing? And I said, I don't think it's going to be universally effective, but it's certainly something worth considering with guys. Maybe Daniel Lynch should be calling his own pitches tonight.
Maybe so, and that might be something that they experiment with. But here's the thing: it's the catcher position traditionally has been, the quarterback, for lack of better terms, of the pitching attack, right? Well, we're seeing a little bit of an evolution when it comes to catchers, right?
We are.
Like, it's not all the exact same. It's a lot more focus on framing, and like you're having guys find their value Instead of with their arm, they're finding it with challenges. Instead of with, their framing, they're finding it with their bat. Like, I feel like the traditional catcher is fewer and farther between in 2026 right now. So if you have these pitchers, I'm not saying most MLB players are meatheads. I'm not saying that. But if you have some of these pitchers who are more cerebral, if you will, about their approach on the mound, and they feel comfortable doing that, then I think that they should. I think that that should be at least something teams are more receptive to, because, and it's 3 games, everyone. It is 3 games. I'm not saying that this can be everything for Noah Cameron.
It can be everything for Noah Cameron.
Jacob is not saying that. Jeremy is. But I think that you see the ebb over the 3 starts of like, okay, well, cutter heavy today, slider heavy today. The changeup is going to be consistent. The curveball is going to be consistent. But here's what's really consistent is that it's all working better. It is all sequencing better, and we are getting better results from it. I'm looking at so Fangraphs has that pitch type value where it assigns that value to a given pitch. And a lot of these, Cameron is like half of his positive value on these pitches has come in the last 3 starts.
He's lowered his ERA by a whole run in late July and August off of 3 starts,
which is impressive, insanely impressive. He got his win last night. He's now sitting at 6-8 for those folks who care. I do think that right now we have a 3-game sample where we can look at, okay, is he also changing things the first time through the order versus second time through the order versus third time through the order? How are his locations changing and things like that? But it all boils down to 2 things. Player has to be comfortable doing it, and the player has to have their body in tune. They need to know what is working instead of, I am going to throw this slider come hell or high water. I don't care if it works or not. I am tossing it. We've seen Michael Wacha some starts when the changeup just absolutely is not there, and he would still go for it, and it doesn't have good results. So I love what Cameron's doing right now. I really hope it is sustained and he gets a good end to the 2026 season that has largely been one to forget for him.
Yeah, it would be really nice if he could finish the year looking like a number 2 starter instead of a number 4 for the Royals to ostensibly compete next year. They're gonna need him to be better. Otherwise, because as I argued, I think it was last time, as I argued, when you've got to add 3 to 5 starting pitchers, 5 to 10 relievers, and 1 to 2 bats, that's just a lot to do in a single offseason, even with unlimited money. So they're going to need some help inside. They don't have anyone in Omaha. It's going to have to be from guys on the team, really.
Yeah.
I do want to go back to that point you were making about catchers evolving, and I think that's a really smart point. I also I think the baseball has evolved this way, has pushed kind of this evolution because pitchers don't hit anymore. So they don't have to think about hitting, and catchers do need, the art of pitching has become more complicated because it's not about knowing your pitcher, it's about knowing who's batting. You have to know all the other hitters. And I feel like it makes more sense to have the pitcher who only needs to pitch focus on, okay, this guy does worse against these kinds of pitches, and keep all that information in his head, instead of trying to have the catcher who has to be thinking about all of the other team's pitchers and all of the other team's hitters, have him keep it in his head. That seems unsustainable to me. So I think this is a necessary evolution, and I do hope we see more. I think that's why they were thinking dugouts should call the pitches. But also, it seems like at least some teams were having AI call the pitches.
Yeah.
And it seems like that wasn't actually very effective. So let's give the information to the pitchers, and let's let pitchers who are kind of more cerebral and less ego driven, or less, I'm just going to throw my fastball and see what happens, and let them kind of have an opportunity to stand out in that way.
When the moments in your life are too important to miss, you can trust O'Reilly Auto Parts to keep you and your plans on the road. Our professional parts people can test your vehicle's battery and even give it a charge if needed. In most cases, we can install your new battery for free. It's just one of the many services we provide at O'Reilly Auto Parts to ensure life's best moments don't find you stranded.
O'Reilly Auto Parts. You didn't start a business just to keep the lights on. You're here to sell more today than yesterday. You're here to win. Lucky for you, Shopify built the best converting checkout on the planet. Like the just one tapping, ridiculously fast acting, sky-high sales stacking, champion of checkouts. That's the good stuff right there. So if your business is in it to win it, win with Shopify. Start your free trial today at shopify.com/win.
Most people don't realize how much of their personal information is being bought and sold every day. Data brokers are making billions pulling details about you from public records and the internet, then packaging and selling it, usually without your consent. That's how your information lands in the hands of scammers, spammers, even stalkers. That's where Aura comes in. Aura actively removes your data from broker sites and keeps it off. They also instantly alert you if your information shows up in a breach or on the dark web. But Aura goes beyond data protection. With one app, you get a VPN, antivirus, password manager, spam call protection, dark web monitoring, and even up to $5 million in identity theft insurance. All backed by 24/7 US-based fraud support. Other companies might just sell credit monitoring or just a VPN. Aura gives you all of that together at the same price competitors charge for just one service. Start your free trial today at aura.com/prevent. Protect yourself now at aura.com/prevent.
Yeah, absolutely. That's another one of the people aspects of baseball that we won't be able to quantify, right? And it is the thing that has, I don't want to say kept analytics at bay, but has kept analytics from finding that perfect recipe to building that 162-0 team in Major League Baseball. Hey, you were talking about Omaha a little bit. There's a whole bunch of new faces down in Omaha. So I want to let's talk about that real quick.
The trade deadline passed, but the Royals were not finished adding to the Omaha roster, and I think they've got 3 guys who I think the bare minimum we can say about them is they're more interesting than the guys who were in Omaha.
Yeah, and I think that's a fair way to put it. The leading name I would say is Jacob Berry, a utility guy. The Fangraphs puts it well when they say he has no position, but he raked in college. Like, he was coming out of LSU, it was all about the bat. But unfortunately, the bat has not really materialized, at least in the Miami Marlins organization. He does have what'd you say?
Well, this year looks different to me.
This year looks a little different. He has an above average WRC plus, but he had it last year. He has it this year. He's showing a lot of progressions when it comes to walking more than he's striking out, which was not a part of his repertoire coming out of LSU. Right? It was a little bit more like, hey, he's going to grow into the power. He's going to do X, Y, and Z. He's got 12 home runs over the last couple of seasons. But overall, like you said, Jacob Berry looks immensely more interesting than most of the guys that the Royals have in Omaha. And this is a guy who, hey, he's a switch hitter. He could play corner infield. He could play the outfield. I wouldn't be surprised if we see him up in Kansas City soon.
Yeah, you mentioned walking more than he strikes out, which is always very interesting to me. He also has a minuscule 5.9% swinging strike rate.
Yeah,
out of the minors. He could be Luis Arias with less power and a better batting eye. Because like you said, he has 12 home runs over his past 175 games. Last year and this year, which is, 10 home runs in a season isn't bad for if you're going to carry a 372 OBP. So he's not like the perfect prospect. But he is only 25 in AAA, which is beyond kind of like elite prospect level, but is still a quasi prospect. He's a Nick Lofton, Whit Merrifield kind of looking guy, and those guys, they don't always work out. That's why we look at Nick Lofton and Whit Merrifield and go, hey, but sometimes they do because we've seen it. So he's a guy that I would love to get a look at as a utility infielder. I would probably rather see him than Josh Rojas. I certainly would rather see him than Andrew Velasquez. So he's a guy they gave cash for him. He's not hurting them, not costing them anything. You know, I want to see what he's got. I'm a little, it's probably nothing.
Yeah.
But John Rave is probably nothing, and he's got an OPS over 900 right now. Nick Lofton is probably nothing, and he's been one of the more consistent bats in the Royals lineup this year.
Mm-hmm.
You can't find a diamond in the rough without throwing some rough out there and seeing what happens.
Yeah. Waiting for that rough to get worked off, if you will, at the major league level. This is Barry's one of those guys. Process looks really, really good. There is the rough with him that needs to get worked out is this guy, he was picked even before Gavin Cross in that draft, and he has not worked out. So the Royals are just collecting the 2022 draft in Omaha right now, apparently.
I'm trying to think of like a metaphor of like we're polishing this rock, and they polished it a lot and it still didn't shine.
Yeah.
Maybe just a little bit more polish and it shines though.
Maybe
it was not in the right light. Maybe it needed the light of a Royals team rather than a Marlins team.
Maybe so.
Maybe it needs a black light or a blue light.
Or in a lost season, no light at all. But that was not the only new face that the Royals added to Omaha. So I'm gonna go back a little bit. There's a lot of transactions here to run down, and I want to make sure we hit them all because you brought up Andrew Velasquez. We saw him lately in Kansas City. The Royals designated him for assignment on the 3rd, and then they added reliever Connor Siebold from the 15-day IL to the 60-day IL with that right lat strain. And then on August the 4th, the Royals recalled Jose Cuas from Omaha, and we saw him against the Twins. Cuas is one of those guys. He's not new to Kansas City. I think that he's a perfectly fine depth arm for a major league team. So I'm never going to complain about seeing him get normal work. Also, Nolan Hoffman was optioned to the Omaha Storm Chasers. So Hoffman, formerly with the Philadelphia Phillies organization, the Royals traded that was a trade that we talked about. It became official they moved him on the 4th. Excuse me, that's what I was bringing up. So we haven't seen him yet. The Royals also optioned Connor Thomas to AAA Omaha.
Connor Thomas was one of the guys they acquired after the deadline.
Correct. Yes, they claimed him off waivers from the Athletics. The Athletics designated him for assignment on August the 1st. He's one of those guys who's bounced around organizations for a little bit. He was with the Brewers for most of his time, but since then he's been in Rome, he's been in Gwinnett, he's been in Omaha now. He did have his first appearance with the Storm Chasers, only needed 7 pitches to get through a scoreless and hitless inning, excuse me. So far so good from Thomas. I need to do a deep dive in on him and see what's his profile? What does he bring? He's a lefty reliever. That's about all I know right now.
Just looking at the surface level stats, he's not striking guys out, but he's not walking them. He has a 2.04 ERA in the minor leagues this year. He had some time at high A and spent most of his season in Gwinnett for 27 1/3 innings, 1.98 ERA there. Again, 6.59 strikeouts per 9, but he's walking few enough that gives him a K-9 of 11.8%, which isn't good, but is much better than you usually expect from a guy who's striking out 6.5 per 9. It's playable in middle relief.
Yep.
Speaking of that transfers to the big leagues, which it didn't in his first stint with Atlanta. So,
nope, it did not at all. Speaking of middle relief guys, Carlos Duran, one of the guys that the Royals acquired at the trade deadline, he got his first taste of Omaha action. He pitched a scoreless inning with 1 hit allowed, but he got his first hold with the Storm Chasers. So congratulations to Duran. But you might ask, why the heck would the Royals need a left-handed reliever? Well, that is because they finally moved on from offseason acquisition Matt Strom, this has been the trade that has blown up in the Royals' face just completely and utterly. There is no positive to be taken away from this. A 7.32 ERA across his 41 appearances this season, nearly a whip nearly above 1.5. Like, this was absolutely an outlier season from Strom. Well, since his second go at it with the Royals, I would say. But I mean, I'm glad that Strom is gone. I'm glad that it was moved on. I'm sure that they tried to find some trade partner to take on salary to try and get something for him. But Strom has just looked broken this season, for lack of better terms. So I doubt any competitor out there would take on that project at this point. You have any
Seemingly
thoughts?
not, because they cut him pretty much immediately after the deadline. And then the Royals did add one more reliever, left-handed reliever, who's apparently pitching in Double-A for the Royals now, according to Fangraphs. That's weird to me, because he's pitched in the big leagues for parts of each of the last 4 seasons, including this year.
The official Major League Baseball transactions have him assigned to Omaha.
Weird. Anyway, so Luke Little, who's a guy who's the velocity, he made a name for himself in amateur ball with his velocity, hasn't really translated he struggles with walks is the thing. But you can dream on that stuff. Jacob, on the 20 to 80 scouting scale, his sinker comes in as an 80 in stuff.
Whew, good Lord.
The slider comes in at a 60. And the fastball comes in at a 62.
Man, that's tough.
If you go to Stuff Plus, if you go to the Fangraph Stuff Plus, you get 129 for the sinker, 121 for the slider, the 88. The fastball comes in at 88.
Okay.
So he has trouble locating that fastball maybe a little bit. Actually, no, it's the sinker he can't locate. So that's the problem, is he throws an amazing sinker. He has no idea where it's going. He literally has a negative 59 location plus on his sinker.
Goodness gracious.
And the stuff on the sinker is an 80. The command is a 20. So yeah, if he can figure out how to throw where he's throwing that sinker, he could instantly become one of the best relievers in baseball. Hasn't worked out for the Cubs. Maybe it'll work out for the Royals. It's the kind of guy you should give a shot to when your team is not competing, and you can get him for free. They claimed him off of waivers. So
yep, from the Chicago Cubs, he's spent his whole career there. So far in AAA this season, he has a 5.70 ERA across 17 appearances, some multi-inning appearances mixed in there with 22 2/3 innings pitched. Only 19 hits allowed in that span, but like you said, it is the walks, 23 walks in that span to only 25 strikeouts. So this is, I would say, across the entire season between AA and AAA, this is the worst season of his professional career. So this the Royals got a lot of work to do. I think it has to be something mechanical. He's a big guy, 6'8", 220. I think it has to be something with his mechanics. So hopefully the Royals can find something. And he's only 25. So there's that. This is a part of the evaluation process that Royals fans wanted to see. We want to see, okay, how can we round out the 40-man roster going into 2027? And Luke Little, if he works out, great. If he doesn't, okay, move on.
When you look at these 3 guys that they've added since the deadline, Barry Little Thomas. The correct thought is probably none of these guys has any value to the big league team. Probably none of them will ever work out. Maybe none of them ever pitches or plays for the big league team, but you give them a chance. And if even one of them works out, you go, hey, success. That's a scouting win. That's, a silver lining to the cloud of failure that has been this season, is we found a player who can help us next year.
Yeah. Yep. And speaking, unfortunately, when we're talking about next year, we got to talk about who is not going to be available to start next year. One of those guys got moved to the 60-day IL in Winder Avila. Stephen Kolek still has not been moved to the 60-day IL, although both those guys were reportedly undergoing surgery on Wednesday. Jeremy, we're facing an interesting spot for the Royals where they have a lot of guys that they're going to want to carry over onto the 2027 roster who are going to have to come off that 60-day IL once that deadline comes. That's definitely something we're going to have to watch when that deadline comes later on this fall. But just with the two more pitching additions to that, it has piqued my interest even more.
Yeah, and this as a conversation you and I have been having this week, where I was already frustrated with they're saying they're going to compete next year, because I was assuming Kolek and Avila were going to get Tommy John surgery when they were saying that, and you hadn't made the same assumption, so you felt maybe a little deceived by it.
Yeah, and this is I will admit this was very much like this was an all emotion response, not really a whole lot of logic with it, because yeah, you were right. You definitely talked about like, hey, we're leading up to this, and it looks like it, right? But I feel like the Royals had a tone on trade deadline day, right? With that the Zoom press availability that evening. And then since then, it hasn't really spelled that. It hasn't really, the two haven't married up in my mind. And I think that was kind of the headline thing. It's like, hey, why it doesn't feel very genuine to tell like the casual fan out there, hey, we're definitely going to compete in 2027. That is the plan. We got the pieces in place to make that happen. And then that casual fan, they're not watching the transaction wire. They're probably already tuned out of the season. So they're not gonna know until spring training comes around. Like, oh, where's our rotation? They're all just sitting over on the bench, and they're doing their little plyo ball workouts, and they're tossing from 20 feet maybe. And it's still the Yankees were in a similar spot not too long ago, where they had a good amount of the rotation, the top end of the rotation, certainly on the shelf waiting to come back till the middle of the season. They had a farm system that could support them at least limping by. Best case, which did kind of happen, I would say. Best case, where they were very successful. The Royals don't have that. The Royals don't have a limp buy option right now. They're on their limp buy option, and it is Seth Lugo and Randy Dobnak and Michael Wacha, and we'll talk about him right now, actually shifting Daniel Lynch IV back into a starting role that is, to our knowledge, this is a proper starting role. This is not a opener role with someone pitching behind him to be the bulk guy. This is Daniel Lynch IV, the 2018 draft pick, going back into the rotation. Danny Dips.
I like to call him. Danny Drips.
Danny Drips.
I like to call him.
I like it. Back the baseball card says I should be more excited for this. I'm not really excited for this, Jeremy. I think this could go very badly very quickly.
I think that here's my prediction, Jacob.
All right, let's hear
it. Tune into the broadcast tonight. Whoever we've got on there, I don't know who's calling the game tonight. It might it was Haas and Jake, I think, for the Twins series. Yeah. I have no idea who we're getting tonight. Whoever it is will say, boy, they're hoping that Daniel Lynch takes after what worked for Chris Bubich and what worked for Danny Duffy. They might even summon Seth Lugo and say, they found this mentality in bullpen, and they brought it to their starting, and it worked really well for them. And I was looking up some numbers because I had to write the game thread for today, so I would like to put a little bit of a preview in there. And there was a time when we were excited for Daniel Lynch as a reliever. He started out 24 as a starter, but by the end of the year, he was a reliever, and he finished the year with 20 2/3 innings, 24 strikeouts, and didn't allow a run for the final 2 months of the season. I was like, okay, is he Wade Davis? Last year, not so good. And then this year, he started off really good again, and he's not been as good lately, and it's been disguised by the fact that he's not been giving up runs. But over his last 20 appearances, he's pitched 19 2/3 innings while striking out only 6 and walking 4 while also allowing 14 hits. The fact that he's only given up 5 runs for a 2.29 ERA over that span is remarkable. So, one credit we have to give him is he has not given up home runs this year. He keeps the ball in the park. So, that's a huge plus. But boy golly, 6 strikeouts of 4 walks over 19 and 2/3 innings. That's not good enough. And that's why when everyone's like, why isn't he closing? Why? I'm like, because he's not good, y'all. He's not good. He's not actually good. He's just, I don't know how he's doing this, but it's not by being good. And so when they say, okay, let's put him back in the rotation and see if his reliever mentality helps. If he pitches well in the rotation, and I'm not guaranteeing he won't. Maybe he will figure something out in the rotation. It's not the same reasons that Danny Duffy and Chris Bubich got good moving from the bullpen to the rotation. When those guys moved to the bullpen, they gained more confidence in their stuff. They refined things. They went on more of an attack mentality. That's not who Daniel Lynch has been as a reliever. So it's not the same thing when he moves into the rotation. So when they say that on the broadcast, and I would bet money, if there was somewhere I could bet money on that, I would bet money on that, even as a not gambling person, because that's just a safe bet. They're gonna talk about Chris Bubich and/or Danny Duffy and/or Seth Lugo, and they're gonna talk about them moving from the bullpen to the rotation and how that was a success. And it's just not the same thing.
I don't think it will be. However, I would be remiss. I'm hoping for the best case outcome.
Oh, me too.
I'm just not expecting the best case outcome. That's the important delineator.
If there is something he's doing to succeed beyond just being incredibly lucky, then maybe that will translate into the rotation, into starting. But none of the things I know to look for as an experienced baseball analyst are there.
Yeah.
So this could blow up in their faces. It might succeed. If it succeeds, it will be because of some aspect of his pitching that I do not currently understand.
Absolutely. And I couldn't agree more on that. One thing I'm looking at is, hey, I'm really glad that he's got Bobby Wood Jr. back there behind him right now. Again, at shortstop, nearly a 51% ground ball rate on the season. That has dipped slightly since the beginning of June, I will say, to 44.4%, but that is still a respectable number. And I think that if there's anything he could hang his hat on, hey, he's getting plenty of soft contact, and that is what is going to keep him going in the rotation. We'll see how long this experiment goes. His last proper start, I say, like, he started a couple of games in 25, but those didn't go any longer than 3 innings.
Those were opening appearances.
Yes. Thank you. His last proper start is what I'll say was on June 7th. 2024, when he gave up 8 earned runs on 6 hits and 4 walks against the Seattle Mariners.
His next appearance was a bulk relief appearance where he gave up 6 runs in 6 innings.
Yep.
So the last time we saw him attempting to start, it did not go well. That doesn't mean it's going to go poorly this time. Maybe there is something he is actually doing as a reliever beyond just luck. I shouldn't say that he's just been lucky, but it sure looks like it based on everything I know about pitching.
Yeah. We'll see how it goes tonight. The one thing that I'm really worried about is this also keeps him in line for making a start against the Los Angeles Dodgers on the road. So that could be...
The other thing positive I will say is that I would rather see Daniel Lynch trying to start again than Mitch Spence.
Yeah.
Or even Mason Black. They don't have a lot of good options right now.
No, they really don't. They really don't. It's a pretty sad state of affairs, I think, is the gentle way to put this.
Is it Ryan Ramsey? Is that the guy who's in AAA?
Yeah, right.
You could give him a shot, but I don't feel any more confident in his ability than Daniel Lynch is. And everything I've heard, I have heard rumors that Lynch really wants to start. So, given this situation, give the guy who's sucked it up and gone to the bullpen and did what you asked of him, give him that shot again.
True. Yeah, Ryan Ramsey's been fine over his past couple of starts, but it's like Ryan Ramsey is not. He is a sacrificial lamb. He's the guy. He's the guy you say, hey, You're going to be out there for 4 innings. Whatever that
And
box score says at the end is your choice.
if Daniel Lynch doesn't do well, if Danny Drips can't pull it off, then maybe Ramsey gets the call then, because none of the starters who are hurt are coming back.
Yeah.
So they need someone to do this, and who knows how much longer Randy Dobnak can keep doing what he's doing too. So there might be more opportunities for AAA guys to get shots at starting. But yeah, I don't think there's anything wrong with putting Danny Drips in the rotation and give him a handful of starts and see if he can find any magic. It's also part of, hey, this rock, we polished it, it didn't shine. If we polish it a little bit more, does it shine, or do we need to move on? And there's no point in moving on. So let's polish a little more and see what happens.
Yep. There you go. Hey, one other guy who I want to highlight real quick is Carson Rockefeller, who has been on a tear so far this season, at least when it comes to the back of the baseball cards. He has 27 home runs right now for AA Northwest Arkansas. 12 of them have come since the beginning of July. What is the thing that's holding him back, though? That strikeout rate across the season has been the big eyesore. But in that same span, since the beginning of July, he only has a 20.9% strikeout rate, which that is absolutely going to play when you're looking at a guy with an OPS north of 1,000 in that span and an ISO of 359. His BABIP also notably is below league average in that same span. So Carson Rockefeller absolutely should be looking at a promotion to Omaha before the season is over. He is 24 years old, mind you, so there is still time there, but still waiting for him to put on his Storm Chasers uniform.
I'm just sitting here wondering if anyone gets promoted in the Royals minor leagues anymore. The catcher, Blake Mitchell.
Yep.
He's got a 2020 season going now. He hit his 18th, 19th, and 20th home runs over the last few days. He's been getting hits other than home runs. His OPS is up over 900. He's cutting down on the strikeout rate, but he's still in high A. Funny story, I've been trying to check out some more Quad City stuff. I looked at LP Langevin, who was a draft pick a couple of years ago, same draft as Jack. Ooh, he's got 2 strikeouts per inning, basically, in high A. I was like, and he's got a 2-point-something ERA. I'm like, why can't this kid get a promotion? And I'm looking at his whip. I'm like, it's a 1.1 something. That's playable. He walked 7 per 9.
Yeah.
Guy doesn't give up a hit. He's a 2 true outcomes guy.
Yes, he is.
You were walking or you were striking out. I don't hate. And I went from, well, you should promote him to, I don't hate promoting him. Also got to call it Darlene Figueroa. The dude is crushing, man. And Zion Rose got assigned to high A from the Bridge League. And he had his debut a couple nights ago. Did strike out a couple times, but his first at bat, he hit a rocket to center. So that was nice to see from the guy who's being listed as a center fielder in the Royal system, though he did start in left in that game, and he had last night off. So we'll see how Zion Rose progresses. I'm very excited about his future. I'm excited to see. I found out I realized, Jacob, there's a minor league baseball app where it's not as user-friendly as the MLB app, but you can set it up to give you notifications for teams. So now I can find out when all these guys are doing really good things. Check out their box scores from the app. I'm excited to use it.
Yeah. And hey, if the Figueroa name does not ring any bells, the Royals got him from the Dodgers back at the 2023 trade deadline. I always think he's a lot older than he is. He's only 22 years old right now. They're at high A, doing his thing, still below the average age there, but an 863 OPS and 22 home runs on the season is absolutely going to play from the Dominican. All right, Jeremy, what do you say we get to some reviews, huh?
Yeah, I figure we better.
There's nothing else that I could think of. But before we do, sorry, this is my little tangent. I definitely want to remind folks, this is the process time. This is the evaluation time. We're looking to 2027, but we got to get through the end of 2026. Who is going to be with us in 2027? That is the key part. So some of these Royals games might be pretty rough to watch. I was scratching my head when, we're looking to close out a sweep, and Bummer and Pearson and McGee are the guys who come out of the bullpen. The reality is those are the guys who have a chance to be on the 2027 roster, but they need to prove themselves in these opportunities. So they're going to get a limited set of the opportunities. It might be head scratching and frustrating, though.
When the moments in your life are too important to miss, you can trust O'Reilly Auto Parts to keep you and your plans on the road. Our professional parts people can test your vehicle's battery and even give it a charge if needed. In most cases, we can install your new battery for free. It's just one of the many services we provide at O'Reilly Auto Parts to ensure life's best moments don't find you stranded.
O'Reilly Auto Parts. You didn't start a business just to keep the lights on. You're here to sell more today than yesterday. You're here to win. Lucky for you, Shopify built the best converting checkout on the planet. Like the just one tapping, ridiculously fast acting, sky-high sales stacking, champion of checkouts. That's the good stuff right there. So if your business is in it to win it, win with Shopify. Start your free trial today at shopify.com/win.
Most people don't realize how much of their personal information is being bought and sold every day. Data brokers are making billions pulling details about you from public records and the internet, then packaging and selling it, usually without your consent. That's how your information lands in the hands of scammers, spammers, even stalkers. That's where Aura comes in. Aura actively removes your data from broker sites and keeps it off. They also instantly alert you if your information shows up in a breach or on the dark web. But Aura goes beyond data protection. With one app, you get a VPN, antivirus, password manager, spam call protection, dark web monitoring, and even up to $5 million in identity theft insurance. All backed by 24/7 US-based fraud support. Other companies might just sell credit monitoring or just a VPN. Aura gives you all of that together at the same price competitors charge for just one service. Start your free trial today at aura.com/prevent. Protect yourself now at aura.com/prevent.
I don't think I'd expect Bummer to be on next year's roster.
Nah, he's going to stick around.
To be on this year's roster for much longer. They've got a bunch of arms in the minor leagues they could give a shot to now.
Yeah. Bummer is definitely setting up like the first man off the 26-man roster, if they call up a pitcher. All right, Jeremy, what do you got for a short review today? We're on a time crunch.
Do you want to hear about the sequel to maybe my favorite roguelite ever, or the sequel to maybe my favorite Western-style open-world RPG ever?
Western style.
All right, so Ghost of Yotei. I just finished that game up. I finished both of these games up recently, but Ghost of Yotei is the sequel to Ghost of Tsushima, which I waxed poetic about once upon a time on this podcast. If we had better organization and archiving, maybe we'd have a wiki like the Effectively Wild, and I could tell you exactly which one it was about, but whatever. Ghost of Yotei is tremendously fun. It has Erika Ishii doing the voiceover, or the voice acting and the mocap for the protagonist, Atsu, and she's fantastic. She's tremendous. She's a dropout person, but she's also done a lot of video game stuff. She was also in the last Dragon Age game. She's amazing. I love her. She does a tremendous job. All the performers do a great job. It does have kind of the sequel problem that I've seen in a lot of video game sequels, where they really refine the gameplay to a brand new level, and it's awesome. But also the story takes a little bit of a hit, and and still, the thing is, you go from an A+ story to an A story, and it feels like, it's a decline, but it's still an A. It's still really good. And I will say that the story of Ghost of Yotei is still really good. The gameplay is amped up to even higher levels. It's still absolutely gorgeous. I just wish we'd gotten to spend a little bit more time with what they call the Wolf Pack. Because she's a lone wolf, and so I wish we could have seen more from all of her allies that she works with, a little bit more like what's their deal, who are they, how do they feel about this world. But still, I mean, that's a very small complaint in what is otherwise an excellent, excellent game.
There you go. I like that. My review today is over X-Men 97. I can't recall if I've reviewed this show before. So one of my, growing up, my favorite cartoons were the like superhero, the animated series. So like Superman, the animated series, Batman, X-Men, things like that. And so X-Men 97 is a proper revival of X-Men, the animated series, which ended in 1997. So it's still the same animation style. It's still the same. I think the best way to describe it is it's kind of like got this soap opera drama going in with like the comic book story and action and things like that, but with some serious topics discussed as well. It's one of those shows that kids can watch it and get it and still get entertained. Adults will watch it and see a billion different things that the kids are missing. Overall, I think it's a great revival. I think that this is just a wonderful, it's just wonderful. It's very nostalgic. It's new stories. It's so high quality, and the animation style is exactly the same as it was back then. So that is one thing that I love, because I cannot stand Marvel animation style. I cannot like the what if and all that. Cannot stand that style. I have stopped watching that stuff, but this shows me, okay, they can do this. This is pleasing to the eye. Let's do a little bit more of this. But yeah, X-Men 97, they got 2 seasons out now on Disney+.
Yeah, my favorite cartoon when I was a kid, well, my favorite was Rescue Rangers. But
goated.
But one that I wanted to be my favorite, but I could never quite figure out when it was on to watch it. And you and I were having this discussion the other day of old time TV and having to be there when it aired, was Spider-Man.
Yes.
I loved Spider-Man, but like it was a serialized story and I couldn't figure out how to watch it in order. I did watch it on Netflix when they had their deal with Disney a few years ago. I don't know where it is now. I would watch it again. It also has Jennifer Hale as Black Cat. Jennifer Hale is one of, if not the sexiest voices in voice acting. And so then put her in Black Cat, who is a very sensual character. And I like, this is for kids? Are you sure? But yeah, the 90s Spider-Man, this 90s X-Men is good, but 90s Spider-Man was goated to me.
Oh yeah. Don't worry, Jennifer Hale is also in X-Men 97. She voices Jean Grey.
All right, so I'll watch it. Fine, jeez.
Had to just get you hooked. All right, folks, we got to get on out of here. Thank you so much for sticking around with us. A reminder, as always, go check out royalsreview.com or subscribe to the podcast wherever you're listening at so you don't miss another episode. I am Jacob Milham. They're Jeremy Greco. Thank you so much for joining us today. And until next time, go Royals.
All right. Rescue Rangers to bend down when there's danger. Have you watched the movie?
Yeah, I liked it.
It was pretty solid.
Most people don't realize how much of their personal information is being bought and sold every day. Data brokers are making billions pulling details about you from public records and the internet, then packaging and selling it, usually without your consent. That's how your information lands in the hands of scammers, spammers, even stalkers. That's where Aura comes in. Aura actively removes your data from broker sites and keeps it off. They also instantly alert you if your information shows up in a breach or on the dark web. But Aura goes beyond data protection. With one app, you get a VPN, antivirus, password manager, spam call protection, dark web monitoring, and even up to $5 million in identity theft insurance. All backed by 24/7 US-based fraud support. Other companies might just sell credit monitoring or just a VPN. Aura gives you all of that together at the same price competitors charge for just one service. Start your free trial today at aura.com/prevent. Protect yourself now at aura.com/prevent.
If you like the show, please take a moment to rate, review, and subscribe. It really does help the show to grow. Thank you for listening.